Zola uphuma kuBonkosi Dlamini, uBonkosi Dlamini uphume Zola, been in the music industry. Well, professionally, it's been about 15 years, but performing a kase kolweni maholweni that has to sum up an entire lifetime. The thing is that you never know ukuthi record deal uzoyithola nini. That is if uzoyithola at all. And khona ifone ezokhala la ekhaya amadoda kunamadoda ahleli ngapha. So basically when I was on TV in Sasemncane. There's a program called there was a drama called Teens on a Tightrope. So I was on TV in Sasemncane, and then there was a huge gap after that before I did Papa Action. But Papa Action had an advantage because then I ended up doing Ingoma with them, which was Ikero Fabulous, and a few other songs with other artists because they had the culture of releasing a CD. And that was basically the birth of Zola, the musician. I could have called myself Papa Action, but I was fearing Mhlambe it's an intellectual property of somebody else. So I and then I went for Zola because I had a point to prove. But my perceptions about abantu baseZola. Yabo khona ingoma ukuthi eZola kamshaza afe yonke lonto leyo. And I think I wanted to prove ukuthi mawungaphuma eZola, don't comment ngeZola. Ngithola ngoba yithi esaziyo ukuthi njani. Angeke ngitestify ngekwamashu because yes ngiyavakasha kwamashu kodwa ngisumuntu wakhona. Then we needed to put Ikasle to back on the map. Okay, eventually became worldwide, and we needed to tell ukuthi yeah, sure, fine about Tsotsi bakhona, but kunabanye abantu futhi. And mawukhula udiscover ezinye izinto. Ama-bracket aseZola bangitshela into strange kabi ukuthi iZola beyigcwele abantu be-BCM, Black Consciousness Movement, igcwele abantu be-PAC, okay, then igcwele abantu be-ANC during apartheid, and they were very, very active. Like manje, I spend a lot of time with guys who've been to exile baseZola. So the fact that Zola dangerous was actually written by Amapuni because they didn't want black people to frequent Zola because they were going to get some kind of political influence. So that was the white apartheid media then saying ukuthi Zola about dangerous and more terrorists than criminals. Because if you were a freedom fighter then you were called a criminal instead of okay, system being against attend. So Mau says Zola normally I'm a bracket I'm thinking 45, 50 upwards. Usually abantu be Black Consciousness Movement, abantu be PAC, abantu be ANC. So the story changes as we grow. Uguti it wasn't necessarily a crime, Zola. It was a fact that there were just a lot of freedom fighters and a lot of political activity and a lot of people disappearing into exile. Then by Tapa, so it's very important as about Taki to go back and re-look into others show during apartheid about us because the stories may not necessarily be the same when we start writing them compared to them being written by abelungu back then.
Izinja siphakelwe car wash idluliwe ebhenki kufikiwe iphuzo ithengiwe le ntombi ithintiwe.
Uma uqala ukutravela as a musician, you start realizing ukuthi kunama-forum all over this country. We thought ama-forum are associated neSoweto. Akhona eFosloras, akhona kwaMashu, akhona eMangalani, akhona everywhere. It suggests they were built by the same people who were oppressing us, and they built them all over the country. Ama-RDP yokuqala la. Itori ze-forums ziyafana. The good food, the good clothing, the good Christians, the good songs, the violence, the booze, the stabbing, the freedom fighting. Ayafana lama forum across the country. But you'll only know that once you start traveling, because traveling opens ingqondo yakho to another level. So isn't this mawukhulele endaweni ewane secluded, ukhulele Soweto akakatraveli, you think ukuthi abanye abantu outside Soweto abafani now. And sometimes you discover ukuthi to a certain extent abanye bangcono kunawo. I mean, nowadays sibona ama double story athusayo as close as emalahleni. Kunama Dane friend amanye angeke eJohannesburg. So my traveling then helped me to understand the South Africa ukuthi njani. Then uNkulunkulu manginika a chance to travel the world, deeper into Africa and the rest of the world, and then the songs came from that. Like more cool as a musician, you mature, and then you have a lot of story to tell. Like I will have ingoma zase South Africa, I'll have ingoma ze gospel, I'll have the R&B, I'll have the hip hop, but I'll always have one or two songs as khuluma ngamanye ama-country. Abo Pregnant Africa, abo Azanian Child, whereby I feel ukuthi into engayibone Ethiopia or engayibone Mozambique or engayibone Zimbabwe, it needs to be a subject matter in one of my songs. And those songs, for you to get those songs and be inspired by those songs, kufanele kube khona isigxivizo kwi-passport yakho, kufanele uphume eSouth Africa uye kwenye country, and then you see other things and you come back as a musician. So I'm no longer a South African musician. We sing for the world now. We're selling a South African product to the world, but then again, we also sing certain things that our issues are sensitive that concern the rest of the continent, because we are fortunate, this is South. Because of our country developed into something amazing later on, and the discovery of gold. So the obligation, Uguti, a musician, you must get out of your comfort zone, ubugi impilo zabanye abantu, and write songs about them, because you become a voice of those people. So not necessarily ukuthi every song engiyibhalile ikhuluma specifically ngoZola. Sometimes it's something engiyi-observile somewhere yangishaya or yang-inspire. I'm gonna write about it, but ngizoyenza personal. I'm gonna talk about it as if ngikhuluma ngami. I'm gonna call myself uMahosha. I'm gonna call myself umfundisi. I'm gonna call myself a drug dealer or a drug addict. I'm gonna call myself a taxi driver. I'm gonna call myself an orphan, because mawubhala ingoma, you need to personalize it. So I don't need to say kunochero uMahosha ohluphekayo. I can say nguMahosha ngiyahlupheka. Because ichero yasedladleni le ngiyayicava yasekasi, whatever she went through, I've gone through it. We went separate ways. I became a musician. Unfortunately for her, she became a prostitute. But it's the same papa, same cabbage, same peanut butter, same 4-room. So I know her at some point. That for me, the songs come. That's why I don't really write songs. I just receive them. They're given to me, and then we put them in the studio. But because you live once, you must take a platform. And you must tell your story in Nkani until people listen to it. You didn't come into the world to become a spectator. So I was lucky that I was given a chance to become an actor and a musician, and I can tell my story, and I can tell my story of my people. It's sad where some of the most gifted people in the world prefer to be quiet. uGalileo ngabakekho, uPicasso ngabakekho, uRembrandt van Rijn ngabakekho, Shaka Zulu ngabakekho, the movie, the TV drama, Teens on a Tightrope, Ifala Kamthethwa, Inqumbo Eminyanya, ngabe zonke lezo zinto azikho buphilo kisimphigo if people did not feel like telling their story. So we inherited it. It's not something that you can take credit of. There were people in the 80s during apartheid, when television was owned by apartheid and radio was owned by apartheid, and there were people there who said things that we understood, even though they were subliminal. We miss you, Mandela. Where are you? Come on. We miss you, Mandela. Where are you? You know it's there. But the situation being avumi, so they changed the names. But it said the same story. And when they shot the video, Chico, being a pantsu, decided to make the character a woman in the video because he was going to get into all sorts of trouble. The artists that were more vocal and open ended up in exile because you offended the government, got to a point where you needed to leave. So it's amazing to live today, and you look back. I'm here with my cat. You look at how many people actually went down for us to sit here today. It's scary, but we appreciate it. Angithi bowuthunywa player. Bowuthunywa ukuvayisa amaqanda la. Thatha icoffee lapha nolivayise la. Thatha inyama la uyivayise la. Into zizihlangana. Abogogo bethu nama old ethu, because of the apartheid and the fact that the banking system did not take them serious, they started our society. Nawasekas, that was our own banking system. Still exists. Yes, now it's associated with the bank, but it was never with the bank originally. Mingwabo, tell fridge, you know, like I'm a fridge buyer sekas. Abonwa nge-society. So in the end of the year with bafazi ngicela any fridge. The first time like I sang the fridge. Because black people needed to get creative during that system. So you can't take a claim as Zola 7. And let's just say I'm a guy that put it on TV. But it's been happening ever since we got colonized. Survival about it depended on how much they share. And mawusuka emakhaya whether umvenda umshangano yini umzulu mawufika eGoli uzofika uhlale hostel angithi uyosebenza mine uzothola abanye abafowenu lapho ongazalwanga nabo, and then you survive from them. That is why bekune Group Areas Act wamabhunu bewastowed ukuthi no because they get along eJoburg, divide them tribally. So mongene Soweto, you know ukuthi eOrlando kunenhloboni yomuntu, you know mafika eMidlands kunabasoshangana, you know mafika eDobsonville abakwaXhosa, you know mafika eZola amaZulu, mawucross istrate eXhadi abeSuthu, cross over the river abaTswana, because they felt good these people get along so much, we need to divide them tribally manje sibamoshe. And it didn't work. Because here we are living now together, it's united, your Muslim brothers, your Krishna brothers, your Christians, your traditional people. It didn't work. Whatever the constitution they passed in parliament, it didn't work because we needed to get along with each other. I mean, like, Archer, you're famous about that, but it's really an Indian spice. You know, that's how close we are. So Zola 7 comes from those things. The whole idea of getting along, being consenting abantu bagini, regardless of the creed, color or race or whatever nation they come from. We know how Indians ended up in South Africa, and that's a sad story on its own. And then it just needed to be put on TV because Shongayjeli, I'll tell you one story and direct him to him for lento ifunayo. Hamba ka lottery call umuntu okasoma ufike egate will take you ngakhuluma naye. But if we put it on TV, I'm telling the other 5 million guys who are looking for the same thing. I'm not gonna reach you, my brother, but since you say Pitori, this is the office you should go to. So it was a campaign, but you can never take credit for that. This is Jesus Christ now deciding ukuthi he's gonna turn a match into bread in a fish. It's been around in the Zola 7. You can find it at Pipeline. Let's go.
Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go.
That's the thing. Music will never die, and music will never be old school or old. I still listen to songs in my 80s, in my 70s. Some of the songs I discover now how old they are, but I enjoyed them back then in Sasa Indwana, even though I understand it. My remix here, Tsepo Tula, Nesanko Mot. I called it the prophecy of the village pope because Obabu Tsepo calls himself the village pope. And I was a KZN a long time ago in Sasa Indwana. It was not nice for me to be there being away from my mother, but a guy as the opposite used to play that song all the time, waiting for a name to be called. And I grew up, I remixed it, and the people who heard that song fell in love with it because it just sounds awfully familiar. Even though there's a generation that thought that might have been my original composition. But your mother probably has a vinyl somewhere of the same song. It's said when a nation is gonna attack its own people and attack its own music and attack its own culture. So, for example, America uses Hollywood as the cosmetics of that country. America is represented through Hollywood. They have certain type of women, how they look, that influences the rest of the world. They have certain type of men, how they look, that influences the rest of the world. Certain type of cars, how they look and influences the rest of the world. And products. It's very easy to watch an American video and see a franchise, out here rapper, but no beggar behind him, there's a franchise there. That's subliminal advertising. The cartoons, we don't have our own cartoons. We are fathers with kids. We don't have our own cartoons. Therefore, we listen to cartoons done in America and they make a decision for our daughters and our sons. They influence them. That is why the latest research, a normal 6-year-old feels the need to be sexy. Because it's all American influence. And what are they doing now? They're selling us makeup. Kiddies makeup. You get a kiddies makeup from our Barbie doll brand, whatever, where your daughter now can sit there at age 6 and try to apply makeup. These are things they are selling us. Not Trinam Shop. Not Bantu Stephen Biko. Not what we read, things fall apart. We're not even making our own cartoons. Therefore, influence is foreign. And whatever that influence, wherever it comes from, it comes with those foreign ideas. Sometimes we invade a country, you don't need to take guns there. You can just send Little Wayne. Send him with Birdman and Dre, and you can change a country completely mentally. That's why those artists look richer than us, they look better than us, they get more airplay than us. And they are more South African than we are, unfortunately, on radio and on TV. Because we simply lack patriotism. And massive population control, I'm talking big words now. Hitler turns little boys into killers. They go shoot their dentists and their teachers and their principals because they were Jew. In a year, you can turn the youth of this country to become killers and we can go into a civil war through TV and radio. Hitler used TV and radio. Fidel Castro's revolution was on TV and radio. Mandela understood this. TV and radio. That's why we're an invincible country, we won all the trophies. So whatever you put on TV and whatever you put on radio will change the mindset of the nation. You look into the East, kuna countries that have nuclear weapons and kids will live in those countries. Believe they're going to invade America one day and they were born to fight and invade America, about South Korea and stuff, because that is on TV. So the parents in this country don't know what's happening on TV. They know nothing about subliminal advertising in the cartoons. They know nothing about product placement in the cartoons. They know nothing about hypersexual advertising in the cartoons. Cartoons and sex. And until we wake up to that, then ingqondo zethu zizoqhubeka zibe corrupt, because when uqala umntana usendlini and usafe endlini, i-TV ihlele endlini, i-influence yangaphandle is coming through cable, izocorrupt umntana ahlele endlini. So that is what is happening. Checky comedy ama 80s, it was all about family-based, family morals. Comedy now is about kids defying their parents, making their parents look dumb, the kind of dress code they have now. Things have gone sexual, but it's accepted by society. And that is a problem yamming at TV, and that is a problem yamming on music. Uguti, whatever we put out there, Tina's not chance because we're being dominated elsewhere. And we've been dominated. Okay, some of us have been to America. It's not that great, but people think it is. Because I'm set and things look beautiful, and people think America is dead. America is full of black poor people. It's full of black El Salvador, Portuguese, and Puerto Rican, extremely poor people, and a lot of white trailer park poor white people. But what they sell on TV does not represent that. So, Urambo, no Chuck Norris, I mean, these guys will kick your ass. They walk into a military camp with one gun and kill 500 soldiers, and we believe it because it's America. And before that, there was Superman. These things exist. Now you got Bart Simpson, 10 years or so, for us and our kids. And we have not conquered TV. Until we conquer TV and change it, and it sells ideas of Africa and it sells ideas of South Africa, then the grown-up are going to continue saying that the youth is lost. And the people who put content on TV and people who could put content on radio are actually grown-ups who feel the need to hype American music and hype American comedy, American soapies against the creativity of South Africans. Then uzofunde phepeni ukuthi bathu Brown Dash ushona ngenamali. Bathu Mandoza lost his 7.5 million house. 2 of Zola's houses got auctioned. It basically boils down to that. It boils down to Ipapa. If you don't put me out there, Papa Lamdi Angip. But can you imagine how much Samro has to pay Rihanna and Lil Wayne and Jay-Z every year from South African airplay, while Silla? And we are the one who organize food parcels and do all the campaigns, breast cancer, HIV. We are the ones who do the campaigns. But Jay-Z is the one that gets all the money. And he doesn't need to come here. People worship him here anyway. That's it. I think when it comes to the advice as a strategy to amachita and abo sister abafuna ukuba famous abancane, I think I've said enough over the past 15 years. Unless I'm booked somewhere to go and motivate, then I'll say more. But my concern is with the government. All South African business are international except the arts. And whenever something amazing gets funded to go international, it's usually at Yabantu Abadala, not at youth. That will be the difference between the kwaito versus jazz. Jazz is well traveled, not us. So we are not in a situation whereby music as the more younger generation of South Africa is being taken out into the world, and it's funded by the state to make sure that we have something to sell internationally. They are not fighting Lil Wayne. The government is not fighting Lil Wayne, blocking him off the shores, or crossing over him while he's coming here. We are going there. Last time we went to Hollywood, it was It's Old, which is relatively a violent movie. Trump didn't make it to Hollywood. So how people perceive us internationally is questionable as well, because we are not being allowed to tell our stories. So the state needs to put money into our crazy ideas so that we can do collaborations international. We can do movies international so that we can put South Africa in that particular map. That is my problem. With all other so-called formal businesses are known internationally. China, India, Russia, everywhere. But the arts is considered as a parasitic industry that cannot sustain itself. Therefore, sizobafanda because banomsindo. And event, but it's not really considered a business, a proper formal business, and this is unfair because Maksuga, the American Lizala, South Africa, they pay him 5 million. Pitches and holes on stage in our country, while where they're coming to perform for free because we support our government. So it needs to get to a point where our state looks at us as people. We are the number one most influential people in the land, far more than the president. Because we're the ones who talk to the youth Nabantu Abadala about real social issues. They need to put money into putting us internationally. Then we become the voice of the state. Then us and the government can decide how would we like to represent South Africa worldwide compared to how the world sees us. That, for me, would work. Maybe it will take a minister of arts and culture that is actually an artist for for them to understand what we are trying to say. Artists in this country are losing houses. They're losing cars. They're being embarrassed in the media. And it's not supposed to happen. But it is happening. And intellectually then, if I'm a taxpayer, I expect my music to be protected on the streets. There's too many CDs on the streets. Me as a taxpayer that I have to see a strategy. And I lose a lot of money a year. But I'm still going to get my tax papers. And I feel my business hasn't been protected by the state. And I've never seen a campaign like a TV of a Minister of Arts and Culture. We've been making noise since the days of Paulo Jordan, Minister of Arts and Culture, to sit here and tell South Africans not to buy fake music and support original. But Leung I expand, closing. There are fake hitters in this country. There are fake jeans. There are fake Pirates t-shirts. There are fake Chiefs t-shirts. There's fake everything. So as musicians, let's talk about everybody who's being retrenched because we've become a country that has allowed so much fake to come in. So somewhere between our musicians and the corporate net DTI, we need to sit down together and see how we're going to fight this amazing fake thing that is getting people retrenched in original factories that sell actual original goods, because the people who are in the music industry, in the factories, Mangfiga, they are all gone. They've all been fired. They've all been retrenched. So end of the day, whatever fake you buy, music or a cable or a heater, you're retrenching somebody somewhere. That's what I've been trying to tell the government all of these years. So far, nobody's listening to me.